Solving number 18. I want to have a radical on both sides, so I'm going to move the one that's negative if 1 does exist. If there's not a negative in front of 1, then just choose to move either one over, it doesn't matter. So I'm going to take this one, opposite of a negative radical here is a positive when it comes over. And now my goal is to isolate the x. So I want to get rid of the square roots. Opposite of a square root is squaring, so I square both sides. The square root and the square are going to disappear, and that's because when you simplify, 1/2 and 2 simplified to a 1. Now, how do I know I can't just distribute the square to both? When the two terms are separated by adding or subtracting, then you must write it this number of times, in this case twice. On the right, I'm going to go ahead and FOIL. Multiply the fronts. Multiply the outsides. 1 times this quantity, push them together, is 1 times the square root of x plus 8. Multiply the insides. 1 times this quantity is 1 times the square root of x plus 8. And now, how do I know what to do here? Because I'm taking this radical times this radical. Well, let me show you an example. You do know this. The square root of 5 times the square root of 5 is the square root of 25, which is 5. Notice these two terms are exactly the same with the square. You get the same answer. Square root of 3 times the square root of 3 is the square root of 9, which is really just 3. So the square root of x plus 8 times the square root of x plus 8 is really just x plus 8. Combining like terms, 1 plus 8 is 9. I have 1x, and I have 2 of these groups. I have positive 2 of these groups. Now I'm going to move the 9 over, opposite operation is subtracting, and I'm going to move the x over, opposite operation is subtracting as well. 3x minus 1x is 2x, and 1 minus 9 is negative 8. How do you get rid of this 2? It's being multiplied. Remember, there was 2 groups. Opposite of multiplying is dividing. 2 divided by 2. 2 divided by 2 is 1x. Negative 8 divided by 2 is negative 4. And on the right-hand side, the 2's, really, they're going to be simplified into 1. I'm left with the square root of x plus 8. Now, you've already done problems like this today. This is like number 12. How do you eliminate the square root? I'm going to square both sides. So when I square the right-hand side, the square root and the square cancel. I do have to write this quantity twice because it's separated by adding or subtracting. So foiling on the left, x squared for the front. Outside is negative 4x, inside is negative 4x. Negative 4 times negative 4 for the back is 16. I'm going to move the x over and the 8 over, so negative x, move it over, and negative 8, and combine like terms. How can we solve at this point? We can plug it into a graphing calculator, graph it, and find the real roots. We can use quadratic formula, or it may be possible to factor it. Do you know 2 numbers that multiply to give you positive 8 and combine to give you negative 9? Negative 8 and negative 1. Leading coefficient is 1. I don't have to worry about bottoms up, and I get 2 answers of 8 and 1. Okay, so you have a choice. You can plug them in and do mental math to the original to find out when I plug in 8 and I do the work, do I get an answer of 1? When I plug in 1 and I do the work, do I get an answer of 1? Or we can graph it. Let me show you how. Clear off anything that's currently in there, and I'm going to do the square root of 3x plus 1. Then I'm going to use the cursor to move outside, subtract the square root of x plus 8. That's on the left. On the right is a 1. Do they cross at 8 and at 1? They do not cross at 1. I can see they're not touching. Let's see over here at 8. Second trace value. They do appear to be crossing at 8, but I could be exact here and go second trace. We want to find out where do they intersect. So enter, second curve, enter, go to the top where they intersect. And the answer is always within the x because we have an x value here. It is true, they intersect at 8. Remember, your calculator will eliminate extraneous solutions.